Kevin Roth here of RotoGrinders, and today we're going to talk about the RG Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that RotoGrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on RotoGrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels. And we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your RotoGrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @RotoGrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of MLB Crunch Time here on RotoGrinders. I am Justin Van Zuden, aka STL Cardinals 84. We'll be hosting the show for you tonight, the second show of the day. We had a show for the early slate this afternoon. The Cardinals forgot how to hit once again, but that's okay. It's a long season. Hopefully they'll figure it out at some point. I am Justin Van Zuden, aka STL Cardinals 84. I will be hosting here for you, and I've got two enjoyable co-hosts alongside me, Mr. Keith Eister on one side. Keith, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, I wish that there wasn't as much of a rain threat in that Cardinals game, because I was on Merrill Kelly once Arenado got decided he was going to serve a suspension. Got a little bit of cold feet as the slate came closer to lock with the Roth up in the rain risk a little bit, and backed off of Kelly a little bit, and he went out and racked up 7 Ks. So disappointing, but that's all right. Still had a pretty decent slate to start the day, and we've got another great one here tonight.
Yeah, this is a really fun slate here tonight. I think it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Could be a high-scoring slate. We've got a lot of angles to talk about on both Fanduel and Draftkings, and of course, MLB Crunch Time is sponsored by Fanduel, so go ahead and check out all their featured contests over there. Still some room in some of the contests for tonight, but they were filling up fast as we got close to showtime here. So we've got Derek Carty alongside as well. Thanks to Keith and Derek for doing the double duty today with 2 shows. So Carty, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Show number 2. We got another good slate tonight. So yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, should be a good one. And like I said, I think we'll have a high scoring slate here tonight. We got a nice mix of pitching and offense and pricing discrepancies and just enough to keep us on our toes. Of course, if the dead ball keeps the scoring down, then nothing we can do about it. But this will be a fun one to break down here over the next half an hour or so. So let's go ahead and dig into it. And it doesn't seem like there's any weather on the slate tonight. The Chicago and St. Louis games this afternoon had some problems, but seems like there's nothing for us to worry about tonight. So a nice break from that. And let's go ahead and start with pitcher and some cash game conversation at pitcher. Cardi, who are you looking at on the mound tonight?
Yeah, so Clayton Kershaw is definitely the top option on this slate by a lot. He's arguably the most talented pitcher on the slate. He's facing a bad Detroit Tigers offense. And he's just clearly the best guy today. So on Fanduel, he's your guy. On Draftkings, he's your SP1. And then you're just deciding who you're going to pair him with. And it's going to be one of Garrett Cole or Nathan Eovaldi. They project pretty similarly. You get a pretty significant discount on Eovaldi, but there's so many cheap hitters for cash games that you could certainly make the case for just paying for Cole. They're both facing below average offenses, both in pretty good parks, obviously both very good pitchers. So yeah, it's really just take your pick of those two. There isn't really a right answer.
Yeah, I think that's where I landed. I did the article today and I tagged up Kershaw and Eovaldi in lineup HQ. And there really isn't a need with FanDuel's cap being somewhat softer. And then DraftKings, of course, we've got the insane pricing on the Reds again tonight, which we'll get into with their bats. You really don't need to go super cheap at pitcher. So I've landed on Kershaw and Eovaldi as my top two as well. There's a lot of nonsense at the bottom and not a big ceiling with some of these guys. So I do think spending up at pitcher is the way to go tonight. And you look at our ownership, we've got about 80% of it on those kind of top 5 priced guys. So Keith, where do you stand in all formats on the Kershaw versus Cole debate at the top?
Yeah, Kershaw has just been in better form. He's throwing his slider a ton, over 40% usage on the slider, and that has resulted in the strikeouts coming back with a vengeance this year and at the end of last year as well. So it's Kershaw over Cole for me as well. They have done some funky things with Kershaw's pitch count, but I mean, even Kershaw at 85 pitches, I think I would prefer over Cole at 95. If they let Kershaw go into that 95 range, then you feel really good about it with this awesome matchup at Detroit. So yeah, Kershaw over Cole for me. I agree. Eovaldi's a great option. Another great matchup there against Baltimore. He's posted the highest K rate of his career so far this year. He's up to 27% through his first 4 starts. And Baltimore is one of the heaviest strikeout teams in baseball. So his K prop did open up at 7.5 today, and I hit the under on that. It was only open at FanDuel for a couple of hours, and then it opened at 5.5 at a couple other books. So I actually took the over on 5.5. So I've got a nice little middle there of 6 or 7 Ks where I could potentially hit an over and an under on Eovaldi. Really like that spot for him today, though. Going beyond that for tournaments is difficult because of the upside of those 3 guys. I think Eric Lauer is the other guy in the conversation. Talk about a jumping strikeout rate. He's been over 30% early on this year. Always been a pretty decent prospect, but just never put it together. Looks like he might have found something here this year, and I like the matchup against the Cubs. Cubs are not the high strikeout team they were last year, but there's still plenty of Ks in that lineup. So I think Lauer makes for a decent pivot. I prefer him on FanDuel where there's only 1 pitcher and you get a significant ownership discount. On DraftKings, he's catching a little bit of ownership. So I would probably just rather go overweight on Eovaldi and Kershaw than try to mess around with Lauer too much there. But I do like him on FanDuel where he's not catching much ownership.
Yeah, I like that discussion there. I think on the single pitcher sites, you're going to just see so much concentrate around Kershaw, Cole, and Eovaldi. Jonathan India has been scratched for the Reds, so obviously the Reds are going to be somewhat popular tonight, so just wanted to pass that along. Make sure you get to him out of your lineups if you had him in there. Brandon Drury, I believe, is in to replace India, so India out for Cincinnati tonight. Cardi, you got any other pitcher takes? Anybody you'd consider in tournaments? Kyle Gibson, maybe the one guy with some ownership that we haven't really touched on yet.
Yeah, I think Gibson is certainly fine. You can make the case, I guess, for Dane Dunning at his price. I don't know how necessary he is, but 6.2 for him is certainly fine. They've kind of extended the leash a little bit on him. They kept him on a very tight leash last year, young guy, but it seems like they're going to let him go a little deeper this year. So that's a solid price for a guy who does have some talent.
All right, let's go ahead and move over to the bats. Of course, we will take your questions in the RotoGrinders MLB Crunch Time Discord as we get closer to lock. We'll go through the positions here and we'll get to your questions. So again, on our sponsor site, Fanduel, you don't need to roster a catcher, but you can if you want. We don't have much ownership going there. So catcher mainly becomes a DK relevant position. Lots of catchers hitting at the bottom of the order tonight or facing tough pitchers. So Keith, what are you doing at catcher? I presume none on FanDuel.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary on FanDuel. I would say maybe Wilson Contreras, if you did want to take a shot, has the platoon split batting second against Lauer, but I don't think you need to go there. For DraftKings, I would be looking to pay down here, I think, unless you can get up to Contreras. There are plenty of punt positions all throughout the roster. So if you do want to get up to Contreras, it is viable. You could just punt it with a guy like a Sam Huff or Aramis Garcia, who are both minimum price. They are batting at the bottom of the lineup, but I like saving the money at catcher and spending up at one of my other positions.
All right, Cardi, any catcher takes for you?
Yeah, catcher sucks. Yeah, Wilson Contreras is clearly the top guy. The punt is Kevin Plawecki. I think you should have the money to get to Contreras, but Plawecki's fine. Salvador Perez, I think, is good. If you really need to punt, Sam Huff at 2K is like, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not a position you're probably going to want to be targeting on FanDuel tonight, but on DK, some of those cheap options or paying up for one of the top guys, probably where you want to go. So, all right, let's move to first base. Cardi, who you like at first?
Joey Votto. This is, this is one of the best spots you can get for this Reds offense. They're in Coors Field. They're against Chad Kuhl. He's not especially good. This Reds offense I know has been really bad this year, but they are severely underperforming. Like, there is more talent, especially in the middle of this lineup, than we've seen to this point. And yeah, Votto's had a really slow start to the year, but he's still plenty talented. The spot's really good. He's 3.4K on DraftKings, and he projects as the top guy on the slate. He's 3-3 on FanDuel. He's a great play over there too. So yeah, it's clearly Votto as the top guy in cash. On FanDuel, I do think Bobby Dalbec at 2.4K is also a pretty solid option. And in GPPs, there's plenty of guys you can look at.
Yeah, Votto is certainly the guy that's going to get the most ownership on both sites tonight. The Reds aren't egregiously cheap on FanDuel compared to obviously on DK, but Votto is the one guy that's not really that overpriced on FanDuel at 3,300. So that's where the cash game ownership is certainly going to go. But deep position, Keith, who you like at first?
It is a deep position. There's a ton of guys to like here. CJ Cron is in course on the other side of that game. Freddie Freeman, one of the best hitters in baseball, in the best offense in baseball, facing a rookie pitcher. So great spot for Freddie Freeman. Same goes for Muncy. I think you play him at second base for sure, where he has that positional eligibility, and third base on DraftKings as well. Because first base is so deep, I would look to those positions for Muncy. Matt Olson is in a really good spot. Dunning has been worse against lefties. Olson off to a really good start with Atlanta there. Cardi mentioned Dalbec. I like him as a cheap option against a low strikeout pitcher. I think you can always play like a Pete Alonso, Kyle Schwarber, home run hunting for either of them, Anthony Rizzo in that conversation as well. And one more guy you could look to save a little bit of money, Nathaniel Lowe against Bryce Elder there. He's leading off for the Rangers.
I think you're going to see so much ownership congregate on the Dodgers tonight, and then obviously the Coors guys. I think, some of these secondary teams that still have upside, like the Yankees and Texas, interesting options in tournaments for sure tonight. So, and that brings me to a couple comments. You can bet some home run props if you want. Do it over on FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're in a legal sports betting state, new users can get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. And FanDuel allows you to take advantage of that by getting the bonus right after that first-time bet. You don't have to play through it. So terms and conditions apply. And also, we can talk stacks here really quick before we go through all the positions. I know some of the people like to hear those before we get through everything. So, Cardi, who do you like for stacks tonight?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the Reds are the top stack because it's Coors Field, and especially with their pricing on DK. The Rockies on the other side of it, the Dodgers because they're the Dodgers. But there really are a lot of options tonight. Like I think the Braves are good. I think Boston is good. I think the Yankees are good. There's a number of teams you can make a case for.
Keith, who you like for stacks?
Yeah, I agree with all of those that Cardi said. I think there's enough there, and then especially on DK where the Reds are so cheap, enough ownership congregating on the Reds that you don't have to go too far off the board here today. Playing a team like Boston or Atlanta, I think you're getting really good ownership numbers on them. One other team I'll mention is the Rangers. I just don't think Bryce Elder's that good. I know the Rangers haven't been great to start the season, but I like this spot for them. And you could take a look at some Brewers as well. Cubs have a young guy in Justin Steele on the mound who has battled some wildness. So I don't mind that either.
All right, let's go ahead and move over to second base. Keith, who you like at second?
All right, let me pull it up here. I mentioned Muncy. I like him as a top option. Trevor Story leading off for the Red Sox against a bad pitcher as well. Both of those are great. If I'm looking to get off the board a little bit, I do like Gavin Lux batting at the bottom of the Dodgers order. Good way to differentiate your Dodgers stacks. I like Albies in a Brave stack against Dunning, and Simeon in a Ranger stack.
Simeon fairly affordable there at $3K on FanDuel as well. Cardi, who you like at second?
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of the same guys that Keith does. Trevor Story, I kind of think is the top guy. Max Muncy is really good. Mike Moustakas in Coors Field, I think is really good. Semien, I mean, basically the same guys. Brandon Drury is 3.5K in Coors, so I like him quite a bit as well.
And yeah, that might not be reflected in this current screen or current lineup HQ screen. I'm not sure whether we had Drury's.
So Jonathan India was in the lineup and he got scratched.
He was scratched. Yeah, so we've got Drury projected, so he is in lineup HQ now. If you don't see him there, just make sure you refresh your page if you're looking to get him in some lineups. All right, Cardi, let's go to third.
Yeah, so I mentioned Mike Moustakas at second. On FanDuel, he is second and third eligible. On DK, he's only third eligible, and I think you're going to be using him there probably. He's 2K. Max Muncy, we mentioned at second, is also eligible at third base. On DK, over on FanDuel, his teammate Justin Turner is 2.7K. Hit a home run last night. Hopefully he's kind of breaking out of his funk a little bit because he's just a really good hitter in a really good lineup. And that price for him tonight is really nice on FanDuel. I think Rafael Devers and GPPs, I think, he'll go a little bit overlooked, but I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, Boston, interesting to see what their ownership ends up shaking out. We've got some of their guys. I mean, Arroyo, we've got with some ownership on FanDuel because he's only 2,100. So, and once we get through the positions, again, I will pop open the RotoGrinders MLB Crunch Time Discord. We'll get your questions I haven't hopped in there yet. We're having some wind and some storms, which is slowing my connection down a little bit. So trying to prevent myself from freezing up as much as possible during the show, but we will get in there and get your questions answered. We've got about 17 minutes left until lock. So we've got plenty of time to get through everything. We can give some DK takes as well. Keith, third base.
Yeah, same guys Cardi mentioned. Moustakas is obviously way too cheap. Can play Muncy over here on DK. Ryan McMahon also in Coors. I like a good amount. Agreed, Devers is a phenomenal tournament pivot. Like, if we didn't have this weird pricing on the Reds, Devers is in a great spot. And I mean, with Muncy there too, Devers is just way lower owned than he should be in this spot. Austin Riley is a good option as well, like that matchup against Dunning. And Josh Donaldson still has plenty of power in the 2-hole for the Yankees.
Yeah, the Yankees disappointed basically as chalk several times early in the year. Then their ownership started to go down, and now, of course, they've figured it out offensively. Went off last night against the Royals, and decent matchup again tonight. So, Keith, I'll stick with you. You can go to short.
All right. Corey Seager's price on FanDuel is just way too low. 2,900 over there. He'd scuffle a little bit to start the year, but he has a great matchup here today. Trey Turner is phenomenal for the Dodgers if you want to spend up here. Trevor Story has eligibility on FanDuel as well. Bogarts is another Red Sox, just in a great spot against a bad pitcher. We mentioned Simeon over at second, can play him at short as well. And Francisco Lindor is one of the guys I think is just catching no ownership and in a pretty decent spot here tonight.
All right, Cardi, who you like at short tonight?
Yeah, Corey Seager is always too cheap on FanDuel, so I like him too. I think you're either playing him or Trevor Story in cash games. Over on DK, I think it makes more sense to try to spend up for Trey Turner, but you can also think about Xander Bogaerts, or you can think about Kyle Farmer, who's hitting second for the Reds. And he's 3.1K because this whole team is just insanely way too cheap. So those are kind of, I think, the best shortstop options in GPPs. Like, you can make a case for like Willy Adames against kind of a bad lefty. I think is going to go overlooked for a guy who has, big time power with the platoon advantage. I don't even totally hate Javier Baez as a tournament play against Kershaw. You get some leverage. He has a platoon advantage. Like, he can always run into one, and he's going to be like 1% owned. So I think a guy like that is interesting.
All right, I did pop open the Discord chat. So Steve-O had asked a few minutes ago if the roof is open in Arlington. It is. So we've got the roof open in Texas tonight. And somebody posted a picture from the stadium, so it is open. Somebody asking for home run picks. We can give those once we get through the positions here. And if you got any other questions, now is the time to throw them in the MLB Crunch Time Discord. So we've got plenty of time left until roster lock. So Keith, I'll actually, Cardi, you're first on outfield.
So obviously all of the Reds guys are going to be great plays in the outfield, Tommy Pham in particular, but Tyler Naquin, actually on FanDuel, probably Tyler Naquin is he's cheaper than Pham. So he's kind of the preference there. But Pham is 2.9 on DraftKings. Naquin's 3K on DraftKings. Nick Senzel is 2.6 on DraftKings. This whole team is just like way too cheap. And then if you're spending up, you have Mookie Betts for the Dodgers because the Dodgers are really good. You have Ronald Acuna with that open roof in Texas. That's kind of the whole cash conversation here. I guess actually on FanDuel, Andrew McCutchen at 2.5 is a really good play as well.
Yeah, he's been swinging it well. Not sure why he's so cheap on FanDuel against a lefty, but he will have some ownership there. That's all. I mean, and those guys are going to carry a lot of the ownership in the outfield. I mean, a ton of it. So, and there's obviously high upside guys that aren't going to get that much ownership tonight. So, Keith, who you like in the outfield, particularly for tournaments?
Yeah, not too difficult to get different here in the outfield. You just have to look at the other side of Coors for some nice pivots. You've got Blackman, Connor Joe, and Grichuk for the Rockies. All are great plays, in my opinion. Hitting 1, 2, 3 there. Bryce Harper, hardly anybody's playing him against Taijuan Walker, who has had problems with lefty power in the past. I like the Red Sox guys. JD Martinez did get scratched, but you still got Kike Hernandez there. The Yankees guys as well. Stanton has hit a couple home runs this week. Great spot for him. He's still a little bit underpriced. And Cody Bellinger at the bottom of the Dodgers lineup. The top of the Dodgers lineup is going to be pretty popular, but if you're willing to go down the order and play guys like Bellinger and Lux, I think that's a great way to get different tonight.
Yeah, good way to differentiate those Dodgers stacks. All right, we'll get to the questions now, and home run picks. Matt had asked, MP Matta 18 had asked for home run picks. So, Keith, you got any good homer picks tonight for those who might be betting those props?
I like Rafael Devers to hit a home run tonight.
All right, Cardi, you got any home run picks?
The bet thinks the best value is on Bobby Dalbec, plus 550. It looks like the line right now, which shows some pretty good value compared to the projection.
I mean, if DraftKings is going to price all these Reds guys in the 2Ks, then they should have to make them all like plus 1,000 for a home run on the sports book.
Yeah, right.
if they're gonna screw up the DFS pricing, the sports book odds should follow. Sadly, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But all right, I will go with Austin Riley and Corey Seager tonight. I've got a lot of exposure to that Texas Atlanta game in GPP, so hopefully some home run picks in there. All right, D-Rock asks DK GPP, and this is probably a good segue. We can talk a little DraftKings specific stuff. The cap is just a little tighter on DraftKings, so depending on how much exposure you want to have to the Reds, obviously. But if you're looking for a cheaper SP2, Keith, in a DK GPP, Steele or Dunning?
It's Dunning for me. I'd be hesitant to do that tonight. I think the proper bill is to pay up for pitching, but Dunning is the guy if you want to try to mess around with it. Tough matchup against Atlanta, but he's like Cardi mentioned, his leash has been a little bit longer this year. I don't know. They both have tough matchups, but I'd lean slightly to Dunning.
I'll have to open the player card. I was going to move the screen share over to DraftKings, and I've got all my. I might have to make some lineup edits after the show. I've got all my exposure set on there, so better go back to FanDuel here to keep the screen share from looking weird for everybody with only my players on it. All right, favorite FanDuel GPP pitcher. I'll let you both answer that, but Cardi, who you like in FanDuel GPPs at pitcher?
So I mean, I guess probably Eric Lauer because he's kind of overpriced, but the matchup's pretty good. The projection's okay. He projects for like very little ownership. That's probably who it is for me.
Yeah, he was really good last Sunday night, head-to-head against Aaron Nola. That was the Angel Hernandez game, so I guess we gotta discount that just a little bit, but it was still really impressive to see him go head-to-head with Nola for 6 or 7 innings and match zeros. So, all right, Keith, you seemed okay with that Lauer take, like a single entry GPP. You're looking to be a little bit different. I think you liked him on FanDuel.
Yeah, I do really like that ownership number. Even if the strikeouts aren't completely real, like you mentioned, his last game is probably inflated a little bit. But the swing and miss stuff looks better this year. Not the longest leash in the world, but nobody's going super deep into games. So I think he can definitely compete with the Kershaws, Coles, and Eovaldi's in the slate.
All right, Sherman's Tanks asks, FanDuel better value, Cardi, would you prefer Arroyo at 2,100 or Calhoun at 2,200?
I mean, neither's like super on my radar. They project almost identically. I guess I would take, I don't know. I guess I would take Calhoun. No, I'd probably take Arroyo.
All right. Let's see. Favorite low-owned stack on FanDuel, Keith, who you like?
Let me see what Boston is my favorite, kind of just not top stack. Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily low owned though. So I'll go Texas.
Yeah, you look at Boston, you got 5 guys there in the double figures as far as ownership goes. Texas, though, we've got Seager at 20, Semien at 16, and then everybody else basically 10 or less. So I like Texas as well. Low
and Calhoun looking really good, around 10% there.
All right. let's keep on the discussion, I guess. I mean, the Reds are obvious on DraftKings. And this is a slate with so much offense, like we've talked: Boston, Atlanta, Texas, the Yankees, the Dodgers, all these teams, like, and the Reds are mega cheap on DK. Like, so if you're building a GPP lineup on DraftKings with the Reds plus Kershaw and Cole, news for you, you're not gonna be the only one doing that. So Keith, how do you handle the Reds on a slate like this on DraftKings?
I prefer to stack them only. So, and the reason for that is if they go nuts, then I have 5 of them in there. If they fail, then I have a better chance of finding somebody in the same range as a pivot. I know it's not as like it's not going to project as well as the Reds, obviously, because they're in Coors Field. But if you go down to like an Adam Duvall, or play Sam Huff at catcher instead of paying down for one of the cheap Reds outfielders, like there are enough other cheap pivots on the slate where I don't want to use the Reds as one-offs because they're catching so much ownership. So I think play them in a full stack or completely fade them.
So that's what I did. I went back again. I've got my DraftKings settings loaded in. And so you can see right now, I open lineup HQ. I went to excluded players and the whole Reds lineup is in there. So if you see Reds in my lineups tonight, then somebody hacked me and edited them while we were doing the show, because they aren't in there right now. But, and I mean, I laid this all out in the article, and Cheese did the same thing yesterday. I mean, you're looking 34% on Naquin, 31% on Votto, 30% on Moustakas, 30% on Tommy Pham. The discussion might be a little bit different if there weren't a lot of viable pivots tonight for a 7-game slate. I think there's enough high-end offense that maybe we catch another team that gets an outburst tonight. So it's not that I don't like the Reds, just that ownership in GPPs, I'm taking the fade approach tonight. So if the Reds go nuts, it'll just be a close the laptop night for me. All right, we've got a few people typing. We've got 5 minutes left until lock. Cardi, like, how many Reds would you play in cash on DraftKings? You go the full 5, 4?
Oh, you have to. There's no way around that. You're playing 5 of them.
So, I mean, the lineup is just, if you take, let's just take the 5 chalkiest ones. I added them back to my player pool here. So if I put Naquin, Votto, Moustakas, Pham, and Drury in there, and then let's go with Kershaw and Cole. So see, this is what I mentioned. This is how basically a lot of cash game builds are going to come pre-built on DraftKings. You've got 5 Reds, the 2 chalk high-end pitchers, and then you've still got $5,000 left per position for a catcher, an outfielder, and a shortstop. So you're going to be able to get a high-end catcher and high-end guys at those other 2 positions. And again, in GPPs, if you're doing something like this, probably makes sense to leave salary on the table just to try to differentiate your lineups a little bit. All right, we've got 3 questions in the chat. BHB asks, Cardi, DK Cash, Crone and Farmer, or Votto and Trey Turner?
Say that one more time. Who are the pairs?
Yeah, it's Crone and Farmer is group 1, and Votto and Trey Turner is group 2.
It's Votto and Trey Turner.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Let's see. DK GPP, in addition to pivoting off of the Reds for GPP purposes, isn't the fact that DK hasn't raised their prices with Coors a big red flag? I mean, it's just seems like it's a mistake. I mean, it's been a long time since they've done this with Coors, or maybe they just really hate the Reds, but these are what the Reds were priced at before going to Coors. But I don't know. A red flag in terms of DK dropping the ball, I guess, maybe. I'll be interested to see. Of course, tomorrow they probably won't be on the main slate, but I don't know what to make of it. We'll see what the next team going into Coors gets. All right, Keith, DK GPP, Uvalde and Cole with a Texas and a Yankee stack. Is that different enough?
Yeah, I think so. You're fading Kershaw for one, who's the most popular pitcher on the slate, and I don't think Texas is going to be that popular. Definitely.
Yeah, I think we've got all of Texas guys like at 12% or less on DK. So I give that the thumbs up as well. All right, DK, third base. This is a GPP question. So Cardi, McMahon, or Turner? I'm presuming that's Justin Turner.
This is on DK.
Yeah.
I mean, in cash, you're playing Mike Moustakas.
As a GPP question.
Okay, so it was Turner,
McMahon or Justin Turner.
I mean, McMahon's better, but he'll carry more ownership, and he's not that much better. So I think I'd take Turner.
Yeah, Turner will carry pretty low ownership on DK. And FanDuel, he'll obviously be popular because he's 2,700. But Keith, thoughts on Milwaukee as a stack on FanDuel?
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Justin Steele has control issues. Just an inconsistent lefty. You've got a lot of good right-handed bats there. Yelich has handled lefties fairly well in his career. So yeah, I like it a good amount.
All right, last man in a FanDuel GPP, Cardi, Gallo or McCutchen? That's a good question.
I mean, McCutchen's going to be more popular. So if your lineup is really chalky, like probably not him. He projects a little better, but Gallo obviously has bigger power. So I think between that and the lower ownership, it's going to depend on the rest of your lineup, but I would say probably Gallo.
All right. Yeah, the ownership is probably about a fourth of what McCutchen has on FanDuel. And with that, we just hit locks. So we got through all the questions right there at the last minute. And nothing else in there. No weather concerns. Jonathan India, again, scratched if you missed the early part of the show. Brandon Drury is in there hitting fifth for the Reds tonight. So make sure you get India out of your lineups. Keith, any last thoughts for you before we get out of here?
Nope. I think we covered it pretty well. Should be a fun one. Let's see if the Reds I do want to make one point. Like, this Chad Cole game happened less than 2 weeks ago, and it was the Phillies offense, and the Phillies are a much better offense than the Reds, and they completely failed even against Chad Cole. So don't be afraid to fade Coors.
Because Chad Kuhl has gone from PNC Park to Coors Field and become an ace somehow. So sample size, right? That's the sample size. Cardi, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I think we kind of covered it, right?
I hope so. I
Yeah.
think we made it. Should be a fun slate tonight. So with that, we'll go ahead and get out of here. Thanks to Devin for working hard and producing behind the scenes for us here on the weekend. Thanks to Keith and Cardi for pulling the double duty with the shows today. I'm Justin, and have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. We'll be back here tomorrow around 12:30 for the lunchtime MLB lock on Sunday. So have a great weekend, everybody, and we will catch you later.